Yeah, just kind of feel like it's time to put together a little update on where things are from my perspective in Australia. And again, it's my perspective, so it's definitely open to critiquing. um, we saw the protests and things here, that massive one that had tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, which was fantastic. Things quietened down, and so now I drove last night past our Parliament House, and there's probably maybe 10 people that are still there on their overnight vigils, which is commendable. I mean, really deep commitment to that. It's a fantastic gift to have. I just think I think we're in a couple of things here in Australia, and this is just the Australian perspective. We have an election coming up, and we all know when elections come around, politicians are just, yeah, I won't go there. We all think the same thing, I'll guarantee it. So, with these elections coming, most of our mandates are gone, not in all over Australia, but here where I am in the capital city, the mask mandates are lifted. You can freely move around, and which is still a deception because it hasn't gone back to normal. They still have, schools have a lot of restrictions, and I think in the public service they still have to wear their masks and work, and there's still stuff there. The government just says, "Oh, the mandates are gone," but they still have them being enforced pretty aggressively. But anyway, they move it to the background. Excuse me, and I think that's for a couple of reasons. I think the first reason is the election, and the second reason, which I think is less talked about, is where our economy's going. The government needs distraction. It's bait and switch. They need us all to be looking at one thing while they switch to another. So they've lifted the mandates while everybody's like, oh, okay, life's gone back to normal. And there's this inherent thing in people to want normal. And if my life's normal, then, oh, it's okay, I'm all right. And the Australians have this saying, she'll be right. So, oh, it's all right. I go to work. I can go fishing. I can do my thing. Everything's cool. Excuse me, I don't need to be out protesting anymore, one of those extreme protesters. Well, the government knows that. Whoever's doing whatever they're doing knows that. And I believe while they've lifted the mandates, what they've actually done is they've not stopped. They've not stopped their evil agenda. Behind the scenes, they're passing laws, digital ID. That thing's evil. I mean, there's some good things about it. And in fact, I won't just say it's evil. That thing is biblical. The Bible talks about in the end times there will be a mark, and if you don't have it in, I think it was said, your right hand and your forehead, one of those, you won't be able to buy or sell. And people are like, well, what's the big deal? It's just buying and selling. Well, it's not the mark that's the big deal. It's what's behind the mark. It's a godless thing of control. And where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. So if there's no freedom, it's demonic. So this is about taking people's control. Already have that here. We're seeing the digital identity coming out in other places around the world. Here it's not been completely wheeled out, but I think they've passed the laws to allow that sort of thing to start to happen. Know a young man here, one of my friends works next door to him, that has a chip implanted in his wrist, and he walks into a shop and boop, buys things. Pretty disturbing. Of course, they'll say, well, we're not going to force you to get that, but if you bend over for the vax, you're going to bend over for a digital ID for sure, unless something's changed in you. Because they won't mandate it. They never mandated the vax, right? It's just, they're going to make it so difficult. And if you can't go into a grocery store and buy without having that implanted in you in some way, trust me, people will do it. And when they get hungry, they'll do it. the mark of the beast. So anyway, what wasn't really about that, but I just think a lot of the government today, while it's gone quiet, are in passing laws and doing things. And I think they're passing the laws because of what's coming, and what's coming economically is their big concern. They know full well that our economies are gone. There is no way we are going back to normal. So they are giving the illusion of normal to people, and people are embracing that, but there is no normal. It's gone. And excuse me, I caught myself a cold. And so while they and we have a global, what's it called, inflation global freedom site, and there's videos on there from Portugal and Venezuela, and I think Brazil, and I think the Brazilian one is really pertinent. Well, the guy talks about how the government just distracted everybody because inflation was high. So they had, not a war in Brazil, but that's the sort of thing they do. We've got a war on, we've got floods, we've got vaccinations, we've got. And while they're doing all this bait and switching, they're actually panicking because they know full well that when our economy feels the brunt of what's happening, we're done. On that inflation global freedom site, there's videos of Peru and Sri Lanka who's defaulting, and inflation and just riots in the streets and things. And of course people look here and go, well, it's all peaceful and normal, it's not going to happen. No, it's going to happen. So I don't get personally involved in a lot of the daily causes and dramas of this whole thing, because I do believe it takes our energy. And if it takes your energy, you don't have the energy to give to what you need to give to. And this is a time right now we need to spend giving attention to our families, giving attention to preparing for the fact that our economy is gone. And life as you know it is never going to go back to what you knew. Yeah, they'll give you options to have normal, but they're going to take your freedoms and your liberties with that. So I think that's Australia right now. They have backed off because of the election. They have passing a bunch of laws, but those laws, they are looking at all of our dramas from this. They're looking and saying, we need to pass these laws because when we really have massive riots and problems, we need to have the laws in place that'll protect us. Think about it. All the government cares about is protecting their own rear end. They don't care about the people. So they're protecting themselves because they know what's coming. So my message, just briefly, is to say it's important to have your cause. It's important to chase things that matter, that you feel passionate about. But don't neglect preparation. Don't neglect the fact that things are about to get pretty bad pretty quick in Australia. And when it's happened, it's a bit late to wake up and go, oh, it's happened. You need to prepare now. So if you can give your energy to things that are going to build you, not things that are going to suck your energy, because otherwise when this all goes bad, you're going to want to jump off a bridge. Now, we don't want that. We want you here. Strengthen yourself. Strengthen and walk in the fullness of what today holds. I think that's our update on Australia.